I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I just want to make a quick note in there for the board to pay attention to the board meeting dates for the coming year are listed in there, so make note of those in your calendar. Anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? You want to do a roll call?
That's a, yeah, that's
roll
a,
call,
you're
sorry.
spending money. We need a roll call
That's me.
vote.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Shaneberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Tonelli,
Aye.
Mr. Blount,
Aye.
Mr. Cronin, Mrs. Munson,
Aye.
Mr. Sartorius,
Aye.
Mr. Shaneberg, oh, sorry, Mrs. Conquest.
Aye.
Sorry.
Did you get everybody?
So
Okay.
Before we move on, I see the dates. That continues to be the third Monday of the month. That's correct?
Yes,
Okay.
with the exception of those few holidays that kind of adjust them a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries with that. We are moving on to action items 4.01, 2024-2028 Minooka Elementary Support Professionals IEA NEA Bargaining Agreement.
We'll ask Dr. Massey to come up to the lectern.
Good evening, everyone. We are pleased to bring to you a tentative agreement with our MESP support personnel. Janet Salazar and her leadership team were great to work with, and we are happy with the document that I included in your board packet this evening. I feel like it's a fair agreement for everyone involved. Janet and her team took to vote the agreement that you have before the school year ended, and they ratified the vote. So they're all good on the MESP side, and we're just here this evening asking you all to approve the contract as well. As presented last month in closed session, we talked about some of the highlights. But yeah, we're super happy with the document and happy to present it this evening for you guys so that we can kick off those changes for July 1 when everything renews here around the district.
Were there many? There were no changes from when we discussed
No,
it
ma'am.
last month? Okay.
Nope.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, I need a motion.
Before we do that, I wanted to mention, I'm sorry, that while these are the nuts and bolts and the materials and the documents, while we're approving it, I think it's important to just say out loud how wonderful of a job the folks that this covers do for our students and in our schools. So as we approve it, thank you all and as a representative for the work that you do on a daily basis, and this kind of shows that gratitude.
You beat me to it. I was going to vote on it and then say that.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. Well said, well said. With that, I need a motion to approve the 2024-2028 Minooka Elementary Support Professionals IEA NEA Bargaining Agreement as presented.
I so move.
I'll second.
Mr. Blount,
Aye.
Mrs. Munson,
Aye.
Mr. Cronin,
Aye.
Mr. Sartorius,
Aye.
Mr. Shaneberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Tonelli,
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest.
Aye, motion carries.
I'd just like to say it's been great working with you and your staff, and it's been awesome to watch your association grow under your leadership. So great job.
Next, we have the approval of the Just Schools Services Agreement for 2024-2025.
Yeah, you want to take that one?
Certainly. So last year we brought to you the what we thought would be the final proposal for the Just Schools training as we started to bring some Train the Trainer programming into our district. This year we would like to overlap for the first training. It's a 2-day training to continue to have the Just Schools trainers with us, and then for the future trainings, our own staff that will officially be trainers will be running the program themselves. So that will help us continue the forward movement that we've had with the Just Schools training so far. So I would entertain any questions that anybody might have.
Just one question. This is something that is required by the state of Illinois that we provide, or we are doing it of our own volition?
This is not required by the state of Illinois. This is our own training for our staff.
Okay.
that we're offering.
Other questions, comments?
How does this work in with some of the other programs that we have right now that's,
Yeah, excellent question. So this is actually, we've kind of look at it as braided professional development. So this falls in line with all of the other professional development that we've been offering, where we're looking at fostering a community of making connections with our staff, with our students, helping to embrace all of our students. So when you look at the Safe and Civil Schools training, it talks a lot about making connections with your students and making sure that the students feel a part of your classroom, because we know that when students feel a part of their learning environment, they're more engaged, which means that they're going to learn more and they're going to achieve better. So this is definitely a braided part of that.
So, if I could take a minute, this was actually difficult for me because to me, it feels like where the recommendation is multiple things at one time in a sense. It's the training for the staff, and I think also in there is the program that was started last year for the students. And my end is to defer to you all as the professionals who are in the buildings, and the feedback we get from everyone who goes through it is how positive and meaningful it is, and that's the prevailing thought. But it feels to me like we're putting multiple programs in the same category, because we've never done during the school day program like this before versus an after-school program or a club or a it is kind of, I know we spoke last year, it's a different step in a sense to what we've done and what we've done last year and then in the future. So I'm going to vote in favor of this, but I think going forward, it'd be curious to me what that program is and how it's implemented and what the plan for it is, because what the program, I'm speaking of I think it's the CCL, is that what it's called?
The Just Students
the
portion of the
students.
training.
What the student program is and when it takes place and what they're going through, that seems to me like a different conversation than the approval of the consultant contract. So I would, like I said, defer to you all who do this on a daily basis and approve this, but I'd really be interested in what that program looks like and what time of the day it occurs and what are the students doing instead. Those type of questions I definitely have, but that's not part of this specific recommendation. So just to put that out there, that it was difficult for me to separate those. So I wanted to bring that up so we could maybe a different time have more of a conversation about that specific program.
Certainly. Thank you.
I'm feeling quite along the lines of Adam, where I'm feeling that for tonight, I'm going to support this going forward into the next school year, but in the future, I would really like to know a little bit more about what each individual program is bringing that the others are not, because I feel like we have 2 or 3 different things going, which is going to bring in a lot of different techniques, which is great, so people can adapt themselves to which technique works best for them, but it also can be overwhelming to not know which direction to go as far as like jargon and that sort of thing around the building. And I'm just not seeing what this might offer that the other programs we already have won't.
We do already have this. This has been
I know we
multi-year.
have it,
I'm just
but
clarifying
I'm saying,
that.
right, but to continue purchasing that, I'd just like to know the highlights of each of the pieces that we're spending money on and how they are different from each other.
Okay, certainly.
Thanks.
Yeah, we can certainly bring that to you guys.
And just to put a final cap on my comment is, every single person from staff, teachers, district office, everybody I've ever spoken to about the program when they've gone through it has said that it was different than they anticipated and more meaningful than they perhaps anticipated. So the cost itself is not a concern to me. I think we get more than our money's worth in that sense. I just wanted to clarify that my forward question is just to clarify where the breakdown of the student time is versus other educational responsibilities they have and that type of thing.
Thank you for clarifying.
Other questions, comments?
Yes.
Go for it.
When you were looking at this program, how many years have you utilized this specific program?
This will be our 4th year for the Just Schools program.
Okay. And what other programs have you looked at?
So the team evaluated multiple programs. I don't have all of that in front of me right now, but they did evaluate multiple different programs to come to the decision of the Just Schools training. I believe there, and you may remember, Dr. Mon, I believe there were 3 or 4 different programs that were evaluated prior.
At least 3.
Yes, prior to signing on with Just Schools 4 years ago.
So back when we approved this the first time, there were a couple different things. There was cost, and then there was also surrounding districts that have had utilized them and had very positive experiences. So we had that kind of anecdotal success from it. I know had led to part of that the first time as well, just to add into that part.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, with that, I need a motion to approve the Educational Equity Consultant Service Agreement for the 24-25 school year.
I so for move.
I'll second.
Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Blount?
Aye.
Mr. Shaneberg?
Aye.
Mr. Cronin?
Aye.
Mrs. Munson?
Nay.
Mr. Sartorius?
Aye.
Mrs. Tonelli?
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest?
Aye, motion carries. With that, we're moving on to our discussion and information items, preliminary fiscal year 25 budget.
We are going to have Director of Finance and Operations, Mary Robinson, give you an overview of where we stand looking at next year's budget.
Hello. All right. You think I can do it? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so just to quickly recap current year. So I know this is next year's budget, but I just wanted to just quickly just through one slide in here just to let you know where we'll finish. So just as a recap, we approved this budget the current year with a $650,000 operating surplus. So basically our revenues and our expenditures are going to exceed what was budgeted. Revenues predominantly based on interest. So our interest has gone up pretty substantially. I think the COVID year, we literally earned $0. There was 0% across the board, and it slowly built. And I budgeted this current year off of last year, and then it's, it exceeded the budget by about $1 million in interest. The rates are just so high right now. And so because of that, I felt comfortable that our expenditures have also exceeded the budget by only about $450,000. I did throw out the one thing that was somewhat unexpected. We had some high health insurance claims the last couple of months. But there were also, there were some other things that came in slightly high. And then I went ahead and made the decision to get some things paid in this year's budget that I could have technically held, but I knew that the revenues were coming in, so we're okay. And then we still, even with that, will, because we had budgeted a $650 operating surplus, we'll end the year with approximately $1 million surplus. The one remaining unknown, which is typical every year, the last few days of June, we get a tax distribution from Will County and Kendall County. So as of right now, we're waiting on $4.5 million. That's normal, but if for whatever reason they didn't collect the 50%, or they could have possibly collected more than 50%, which seems odd, but we've seen in the past years that some people apparently pay all of their taxes up front or just kind of prepay that second payment. So we might end up with slightly more or less, but nothing to worry about. It's not that we won't get it. It would just be, we would get it in July. So, yes, that's just what's left. Yeah, like, so Will County actually split the payment and they gave some of the distribution a couple weeks ago, and it was like $5 million. So it seems like a big number, but it's normal. It's just a normal distribution. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, I mean, just to give you an example, we had talked about the playground at Walnut Trails. That was going to be a next year's budget project. If anyone has been to Walnut Trails, the playground is substantially complete. So they invoiced us. I have the check waiting for them. So that came out of this year's budget instead. So it's just something that I don't need to budget for next year. And I felt comfortable with it because I knew we have the surplus. So, yeah.
The playground looks fantastic, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
And the kids are already over there playing. I'm like, guys, what do you think? And they're like, it's so great. But is this it? I go, yeah.
It is. It's smaller. It's a smaller, but yeah, and then there's still some landscaping to complete. So it's not, I have pictures, but it will look better by next month. So I wanted to wait. Okay, so moving on, just a recap of what is included when we talk about the different revenue sources. So as you can see by the chart, just over 50% of our revenues come in from property taxes. But local, we have is the property taxes and all of our student fees and student lunch fees, and then that interest that we talked about from investments. State is our evidence-based funding, our special education and transportation reimbursement, and then our pre-K grant. And then federal is the federal lunch program reimbursement, our title grants, IDEA, Medicaid, and then community partnership was a grant that we had that is now, we've spent the remaining, but we just have a final payment that we'll get in July. So there's just a small amount of that in the budget. So what we are assuming in this first draft is the 8% increase in the tax levy, which is already finalized. But then next year's tax levy, again, Will County and Kendall County are on a different timeline than Grundy County. So in this next year's budget, we will get some Will and Kendall. So we're estimating 5%. I've pretty much held school fees flat, just a very slight increase to lunch because we're expanding breakfast. And then I based interest. What I've done a little bit differently is I know eventually we will see a drop in interest rates. I don't know how soon that will be, but I know it's coming, so I've taken some of our fund balance that I know we won't need, and I've invested it out into the next 2 years. So some of it will mature in the next year, but some of it won't mature until 25, 26. So I've based the budget based on that. So it might be a little less than this year, but knowing that then we have some of it coming in the next year. And then for state revenue, the evidence-based funding, so we haven't gotten our a new allotment yet. That should come sometime this summer. I don't think it's ever not been here by the time we approve the final budget. But I based a $500,000 estimate off of what the new money that we've received the last 3 years, and I just went ahead and listed that. This little chart is basically what I see when they say, your new allotment is here, it's ready, this is what I go in, and it shows me that. So this was last year's, so you can see right here, we're 76% of adequacy, and that still leaves us in tier 1. Every year they've kind of moved the tiers, but we still are in tier 1. So we hope to still be in tier 1 so that we get the additional funding. And then also included in our state revenue is the Preschool for All grant. And then our federal revenue, I've updated the revenue to the current grant allotments. Those grants haven't been submitted yet, but we did get all of our allotments, so I went ahead and put those in. Actually, no, it's not the max. So this is the base, and then in a couple of months, Dr. Staub will get some increases. They're slight increases. They include any rollover or unspent funds, and they're just slight increases, though. So nothing that's going to substantially change it.
There's no max on federal grants. It depends on the budget approved by the Department of Education and Congress out in Washington, and then that gets dispersed based on our individual student populations, low income versus, special needs population, things like that, compared to other districts.
And then our expenditures, you can see by this, salaries and benefits are about 80%. So when we talk about making any major moves, that's really where most of our money goes, is the salary and benefits, which is very normal. So in our assumptions, we have all of the new staff that the board has been approving, all of the collective bargaining agreements, including the agreement that you approved tonight. Health insurance, like I mentioned before, we did see some high claims. So how I budget health insurance is basically the current year activity, and then I put 3% on top of that. So there is an increase in health insurance. We've just seen more and more costs in healthcare, so we expect at least 3%. So every technology and bus lease that the board has approved, the buildings were held pretty flat, and then based on Dr. Staub's recommendation to do some program restructuring, we will see a decrease in our tuition to the Grundy County Special Education Cooperative. We don't have those final numbers yet, but I've just done an estimate. And then we have some monies in contingency. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. About 450. So yeah, I'd have to look at our overall, because each month we spend about 600,000 or 700,000. So I'd have to look at, yeah, and. Well, the thing is, with the 450 that we were over, it kind of sounds crazy, but it really was just the last 2 months. We had a few high claimants. So we pay based on claims. So it was just a few high cases. So we looked into those, and we know that some of them may be not ongoing expenses. Not to say that something new couldn't roll on, but it wasn't the norm of what we've seen in the last few years. It was.
So, sorry, is the 3% on top of your assumption this year, or the actual paid out this year?
The actual.
So it's
so
3% on top of your high level already?
Correct.
Gotcha, thank
Yep.
you.
And we will have insurance committee with our broker before the budget is approved. So if they're telling me that they think it's going to be higher, I can adjust. And then some other just larger things that are included in this budget, most of which we've already talked about. So the asphalt bid that was approved in the spring, we've started to make some progress payments in the boardroom, but the remaining, there's a large portion of that project still to be paid out. The project going on at Walnut Trails, and then just some small building and grounds equipment. We recently had a company come out and check out our bleachers in the elementary schools and just found some minor repairs, nothing major, but we're going to get those taken care of. We're also going to do some door replacements. And then Mr. Souza has the MES, a new intercom replacement, and some video intercoms at 6 of the buildings. So that is all included. So in the future, when Aaron presents those will already be built into this budget. I can't honestly, now we will be doing it annually. Before Mr. Wyson got here, I don't know exactly how often. I mean, not like these bleachers
There is
are.
some statutory requirement for bleacher inspections. I cannot remember what that year is, like how many years you can go without, but it's defined by law.
He has it in his plan just to do it every year. So not like these, I mean, this is like, these bleachers are concrete, but yeah, we're not doing anything to those. So with all of that, this is what the budget summary looks like. So the top section is the operating funds. So we have a slight surplus, $259,000. Again, that's not that much based on this budget, and it could swing either way. So I would be shocked if this is the budget you see when you finally approve it, because there are so many estimates. June is really early to do a budget. But then just based on timing, like life safety, we will have revenues, but we don't plan to spend much in life safety. So you'll see that we'll have that surplus in that fund, and that's the non-operating. So overall, we end up with around a $750,000 surplus. And then really just, it will end up being $1 million. The budget that was approved was $650,000, so similar. And then, yeah,
to clarify, that was $1 million operating, of
correct.
your operating, right? Because
yeah,
here
yeah.
you've got two different things there.
Yeah, correct. That was, we will end up with $1 million operating as this is comparing 250. So like I said, that number could go up. The biggest thing in my mind that will swing that differently will be when we get the Grundy County tuition estimate, and what else was I thinking would really swing it? That's the one thing that I'm kind of waiting on. Oh, and then our evidence-based funding, if that 500 was low or high. Those two things.
Did we do the assessment? Yes,
sorry.
We were going to have an assessor come out, appraiser. How will that affect this, or has that
already been paid?
That's already all
Yep.
done?
Mm-hmm. That's in this year's budget, so yeah.
And
Okay,
the
but then
appraisal,
once
the appraisal
the
is to help
results
us with
of it-
insurance
So
costs.
at the other end of this?
Yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
And then, yeah, basically just the summary. So like you can see the 250, but overall 750. And then we do have the policy that says that we'll have 25%. We'll be over 50%. Certain funds will be closer to 25, but overall the operating will be in good shape. And so looking at timeline, next month I might come up and talk if there's something major, but otherwise you won't see, or actually no, July 15th at the board meeting, I'll actually bring the tentative budget. It's the August board meeting that only if I had like a major update I would come up and talk, and then we'll hope to approve a budget in September. Any questions?
Any other questions for Mrs. Robinson? You make this so easy to follow, so I really appreciate that, not only for us, but for people watching. So
Thanks. Yeah,
thank
I
you.
just did the same format that I did last year. And then what I did last year, every month I brought it back. I just added a slide with updates. So you'll keep seeing this.
Thank you so much. Next, we have preliminary staffing and class size outlook.
Yeah, Dr. Massey, as Mary just said, salaries and benefits make up just about 80%
Right.
of our budget. So let's learn about that staffing.
Yes. So what I've attempted to do with my report for you guys is combine about 3 different things that we look at in isolation and put it together for you all into one package. So what we're looking at here is enrollment and licensed staffing update. Just to give you an idea, when we project for class sizes, we have some targets that we look for. Those aren't hard and fast, but when we're looking at class sizes for K2, we shoot for about 23 students or less would be great. 3 to 5, so 3rd grade to 5th grade, we're looking at a max of 27-ish. And then 6 to 8, you can put more kids in a junior high, so those numbers are 30. But again, we like to be below that, but those are some targets to keep in mind as we start trolling through a couple of these slides here.
Those are the numbers that if we reach those numbers, we would start to have strong conversations about adding staff.
Yeah. So let me figure out. There we go. So what I've done here is broken down each of the schools, and you guys are familiar with this format a little bit. Dr. Cheserick uses the cohort presentation, but I've broken it down from historical data that Dr. Mon has presented over the years in comparison with, initially I had 6/11 information to you guys from June 11th, but I updated today and then added these in so you have current as of this morning because we'd had an influx of about 20 kids or so. So these are current as of this morning, but as you can see, the cohort for Aux Sable, the difference is only 2 students positive growth since last year in all of the cohorts, even though we've lost some students collectively from Aux Sable last year. And again, I should preface this by saying so early to look at enrollment. We still have a lot of open numbers, but we just wanted to get you guys some basic information, and then I'll be bringing that forward to you as the summer months progress as well.
Yeah, remember, historically, we tend to have very late registrations
Right.
throughout June, July, and even into August. So they're bringing you current numbers, but this is very in flux.
So this is Aux Sable, our biggest elementary, as you guys know. And then to give you a comparison of the class size average from last year to what we're looking at this year if we were to start school tomorrow, you can see that it's not looking too bad. But again, we're looking, kindergarten is down overall, you'll notice, but we're looking at really nice class sizes for Aux Sable Elementary School. And then the third document, this is kind of a new presentation to you guys. We wanted to be able to show you the number of licensed staff in each of the buildings, so you know who's in front of the kids, that are in in each of the buildings. So we've broken it down by K-4 teacher, special education, the psychologists, the social workers, speech path, our MTSS, those are our intervention teachers, exploratories, that'd be your fine arts, PE teacher, case manager, MLL teacher, that's our multilingual, and then the instructional coach. And I should say we've got 2 instructional coaches there, but one of them is a district, that person that will be floating around and helping throughout. She's just housed at Aux Sable and is going to have her base out of Aux Sable, but float around to the district itself. Yeah, you're jumping ahead. I've got my staffing report coming at you next.
Yeah, I was going to say, these are like the approved staff.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that every one of these is filled.
We're looking
but
pretty good,
these are
though,
the
I gotta be
positions.
honest.
Yeah, we are looking good.
That's all right. You're stealing my thunder. All right, so this is the same data presentation, but with Jones numbers to it. You'll see that they have, a negative 55 overall from last year to this year at this time. But again, their cohort difference is a 6. So that kindergarten is looking pretty low. Dr. Heiser and I have already talked about maybe changing some sectioning around if he finds that necessary moving forward if that number stays low. But again, you'll see his class sizes are looking really good. That little pink there in first grade is kind of reaching a little bit of warning, and that just alerts us to keep an eye on it. But again, we've talked about, keeping an eye on that as the summer progresses. Those are still really great numbers across the board.
Does Jones
Yes,
Jones
ma'am.
tend to still be kind of a transient population as far as coming in and out? I know in the past we've had students like unenrolling, re-enrolling, unenrolling, re-enrolling. Has that kind of stayed true? Do you know? I know I didn't ask you that before.
Yeah, no,
ahead of time, but
I mean, are there elementary schools where there are more less transiency? Absolutely, but I think Jones has stabilized a little bit.
Okay.
I don't think it's as touch and go as it was at one point in time.
I know like right after the housing boom, there's
Yeah.
a lot of rentals up there and it was
Yeah.
causing some of that fluctuation.
There's still some of that, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We can look at those numbers for you too. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they opened up a new phase of Lakewood Prairie, just on the other side of the retention pond at Jones. So yeah, they continue to build houses up there. Not anywhere near as fast as they were going 9 years ago, but yes.
So you'll see here we've got the same breakdown, and our behavior specialists are going to be housed up at Jones. Dr. Heiser was able to find a location. We see the power in having those folks bunk together so that they can learn together and work together, but they will be dispersed throughout the district as well, like some of the instructional coaches. Whoops, I went the wrong way. There we go. Minooka Elementary is next. Again, their number total right now is 475, and if you remember back to Aux Sable's slide, we're looking at almost 577. So their numbers are a little bit less. They also don't have as many staff members as Aux Sable because their numbers are historically less than Aux Sable. But again, looking pretty good. Walnut Trails, we're down again, 470 in comparison to 518 last year. Their class sizes and their licensed staff. So when I looked at the overall populations for the elementary schools, we're looking at 577 for Aux Sable. Minooka Elementary School was 477. I think Jones was 470. Walnut Trails is right there as well. So there's about 100 differential, between Aux Sable and the other schools at this point in time. Intermediate and junior high, we're looking at 445 for fifth graders right now in comparison to 474 from last year. And then our sixth grade cohort you've got 481 for our current sixth graders. Last year we had 486. Seventh grade at the junior high, you're looking at a 35 kid difference from last year's seventh grade class to this year's seventh grade class. And then the eighth grade class is about a 23 student difference. You'll notice that 1010, we are well below where we were way back in 2019-20. And if you look at the classes that are going up to the junior high, the fourth grade class, the fifth grade class, those are all significantly smaller than the classes that we've been graduating. So, we've got some stabilization happening there, whereas back in 2019-18, those were crazy numbers coming at us. So it's good to see the numbers coming down a little bit. Yeah, we had, I mean, during COVID, we lost students for certain, you know, and some students never came back to us. Some came back in a delayed fashion. But there seemed to be just really large groups of kids there for a few years in a row, like just baby booms. And those classes were bubbled up, and they had 589 students we were graduating one year, I remember, you know. And then we saw, when we did the projections, Chris has always done these projections, we saw that things were going to slow down. We just had to ride the bubble and get to that lower enrollment numbers in the classes that were coming up. So we knew this taper off was going to be coming, and we're finally starting to see the results of those smaller class sizes bubbling up to our upper grades.
It was like the Voldemort pandemic that must never be named again.
Mm-hmm.
It truly upended public school enrollments, I'd almost say nationwide. So there are just some groups that stopped choosing public schools for their education, and then I don't know if there was the generational turnover of housing stopped occurring there for a little while, but we are not the only district experiencing this strange, lower primary grades. When we talked about enrollment back in, I think it was November last year,
Yeah.
The phenomenon seems to be that by second or third grade, they seem to be coming back into our systems. And I think one of the slides coming up will show you the total enrollments or whatever. You'll see that they grow back up into the high fours. Like kindergarten will start at 390, and then 4 or 5 years later, they're up to 480 or 470. So they make their way back into our system, but people have not been able to do traditional enrollment projections because that relies on history, and history has been upended, and we need a new normal to settle in before we can continue to do that.
So I've spoken with Ms. Peekole and Mr. Finkelstein, and these numbers are elevated, and they were surprised when I talked to them because they have been doing scheduling at their schools, and they're really pleased with the class sizes. So some of the factors, you've got students that might be pulled out for, services, MTSS, things of that nature, so it'll lower these overall numbers. But they feel really confident with the class sizes coming in and their ability to keep those class averages down. Yeah. We've done that before. It's not pretty. We're happy to not be there anymore. So this is Mrs. Peekole's building. She's got a total of 70.5 licensed staff, broken down in the same nature as the previous slides. The addition of school counselors, that starts in the 5.8. And then we roll to the junior high. 494 and 518 is what Mr. Finkelstein's looking at. And he's got approximately 73 licensed staff in his building at this point. MPC's enrollment, can't forget the littles. This is so not fair to show you guys right now, right? Because these kids qualify over the summer, and the enrollment for them increases as the year goes and as those kids age into. But currently, I did as much of a comparison to last year as possible. So I pulled August data from our enrollment. So you see we're about there, but we are low, which makes sense because it's June.
Turn your mic on.
There's 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds in the same class.
Yeah.
So
this is the way
that
this is the way that Power School kind of recognizes them in our system. So this
Okay.
was just the easiest grab that I could get from
So
them.
a class is really right about 12 to 15.
So it's important to remember here at the primary center, our special education classrooms, they cap out at 10 students. And then the general education or blended classrooms that they have students with IEPs, they have students that qualify from the Preschool for All grant, and students that are tuition based. Those tend to cap out around 18 to 20. But yes, we start the year very low, where our special education classrooms are starting with probably 4 to 5 students in each classroom. And the Preschool for All classrooms or the blended classrooms, they start out around 10 to 12 students in each of those classes.
And all of the MPC classes have more than one adult, correct?
Oh, yes, yes.
Like some have
yes.
up to 4 or
Yep,
5?
at least
Okay.
one, at least 2 adults in every
Mm-hmm.
classroom,
Right.
and then depending on student need, there'll be additional aides added as needed.
Fair to say, MPC will end the year probably over 250 and possibly even close to 300.
Yeah. Again, their licensed staff breakdown. And then this is the slide Chris was talking about there to give you the historical view of our overall enrollment by grade level and then broken down at the bottom. And if you look at Power School now, we can pull how many have started enrollment, how many haven't started it, how many were rostered last year. And this is really early to be pulling this data. So, we feel confident that, heck, I could give you an update I could give you an update tomorrow probably. People just continue to trickle in over the summer, and these numbers will definitely rebound and increase as the summer goes on.
Do we continue to send out reminders to families to enroll?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And now, if anyone's listening, if you haven't enrolled your child yet, please feel free to do so. Dr. Souza, or Aaron Souza and his team have put out some pretty good messaging to folks to let them know how helpful it is for us when they register early so that we can do our planning. And we've saw when he releases his message, you see a spike. But we periodically we send out don't forget.
Mr. Shackley, when we play this video, like when it's posted, can there be a banner with the website to enroll, like right at that moment in the...
Right.
And is it targeted reach outs to people that haven't? Mrs.
Yes.
Robinson saying yes. So,
And I can say, because I was one of those parents that did not re-enroll their child and re-register very quickly. So it actually came to me as Annabelle needs to re-register for the upcoming school year. So it's personalized, it's targeted, it's not just a blanket email going out to everybody. So yes, if you're getting those emails, that means that you have not finished registration and you need to.
So I know Dr. Mon touched on it, but if you look at the colored cohorts, right, the students that are still in our building from 2019, so there'd be 6 grade levels, are fairly even, right? Some of them are going up and others are plus or minus a few. So it really is the younger grades starting later or choosing other options. So I would just totally agree with that. We're within a year or two, we'll find our kind of even watermark where we're going to be plus or minus the normal flow. But it's really interesting that of the students in 2019, a lot of them are still here with us. Yeah. It's just a different flow now.
Yep.
Do you ever guess like what the roundabout number would be at the end?
Mr. Cronin, I'm not paid to guess. I'm paid to bring you numbers, sir.
Give me.
I would suppose that we'll add another couple, at least 100, 150 kids as the summer goes on, if not more. That'd be my guess. You're going to hold me to it, I know.
No, never.
I would say it defies logic that a district our size would have a kindergarten class of 315. But historically, and the schools know it, they will trickle in early August with new kindergarten students. It just, we can't get them to do this early.
And then finally, here's just a breakdown for you of our overall licensed staff in the district based on the building that they are located in. That's it. Any questions or anything else that you would like to see I could bring to you in July besides updated numbers?
I know Emily mentioned, I don't think we've seen this style of a report before. I thought it was really informative. I don't think we've seen it like this before, so it was really, really helpful.
Thank you.
I would be very curious just to see, I know some of the elementary schools are doing like kindergarten summer meets or for each grade. I'd be interested to see if that has any correlation to when kindergartners register.
Okay.
I mean, that's just a future thought. You know, some of these schools that have outreaches in the summer, it'd be interesting to see if that's turning into more information to those people or not.
Okay. Can do.
And I have one more.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as the support staff, because we talked about all the licensed staff, is that something that's coming?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay.
Cool.
I think one of the key takeaways from this that you can look back from the class size slides, it's very unlikely that student enrollment will cause you to need to add staff this summer. Like your class sizes are in really, really comfortable spots. There's even a couple spots that are really good to where if there's a spike somewhere else, we might have to move somebody to without adding new staff. So that's a great place for the budget. That's a great place for overall staffing.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. For our next spot here, we're on to board updates. Does anybody have a board update for tonight before I do mine? All right. So our obvious board update tonight is that it is Dr. Mahn's last board meeting with us. And as a board, I know I speak for the whole board, we partnered through some very interesting years, whether coming out of failed referendums and all that entailed, and into the unnamed scenarios we dealt with, different staffing issues and things like that. And I think one of the goals of the board in partnership was that we always worked as a team of 8. And I think we've been very successful in that. I think that, as a board, we're very appreciative that you were a team player and gave us no surprises. I cannot tell you a time that we were surprised by you. So that is about all a board can hope for. So we all collectively wish you the best of luck in your new endeavor. We think it's going to be a very exciting way to advance your career. You will be missed here in 201, especially by this board, and we look forward to hearing what you accomplish in the future.
Thank you very much.
And we have some gifts for you. For sure.
Leave that on.
If only there could have been a couple of hundred people here to watch.
Yeah. All the track athletes.
All the track athletes would have been amazing.
Don't break it, don't break it, don't break it. It says, Dr. Chris Mahn, thank you for your years of dedicated service to the students, staff, and community of Minooka CCSD 201. Cheers. Thank you all.
So you don't forget us when you're working at your new desk.
Oh, yeah. And I think, oh, it's got my new title on it, too. How does it open here? Oh, look at that. Wonderful pens. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Yep. I'll save my comments for a few minutes from now. We'll let the other admins get through their reports. So, Ms. Robinson, you want to talk anything else with you and then give Mr. Wysongs?
Oh, yeah. So if the board did not see Mr. Wysong, it is a big birthday for him tonight, so he was going home to have a T-bone. And he did include a report. Basically, the gist is that summer projects are going well. Everything is either moving along on time or ahead of schedule. So there's not much to report, but he did give a little more detail on each project. And then we also included a little bit of a timeline on the building that formerly was our transportation building that we are working on getting to the point of moving it to be our building and grounds building. So we've always known that there was a timeline, but we never sat down and actually wrote out when it started, what had happened. So Glenn and I sat down together and got all the information, and you can see it was the functioning transportation facility years ago, and then it just became a storage dump. And for the last 4 to 5 years, we've been working on cleaning it out. They've made tremendous progress. Our maintenance guys are working on rebuilding it so that they can move and have a space. Our guys do all of their work through work orders, and they all have electronic devices, and they need a space. At the end of the day, they can come and kind of sit down and just have a workspace. And they don't have anything right now. They're just standing next to their truck filling out their. So they're building some spaces for them to work. It's also going to have an office for our director and an administrative assistant, and then our assistant director. So if anyone ever wants to go over there, let me know. We can walk you over there. It's unfortunate we cannot find any pictures of the real before, but I will tell you it was not a place you would have wanted to be. And now it's looking really good. So if anyone ever wants a tour, just let me know. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is we've been talking with the Minooka Baseball and Softball Association. So I had mentioned a few months ago, I believe, that they were going to plant some trees. Those have been planted, and the signs have been put out if anyone wants. They're over at MES. And then the other thing is with the renovation of the shed. That is where Minooka baseball and softball has housed some of their equipment. And so we started working with them. They want to go ahead and build their own storage shed. They obviously would have to do it on our property because it's all our property. So we're working with them. They're probably going to build a small pole barn over on the MES property in between the baseball and softball fields. So we'll update the board once we have more details on that, but we're working with them on that.
Yeah, back to the building and grounds. That's a fantastic idea, probably long overdue. My question is, this figure, the $27,000, is that like a phase, or is that really the total cost of this estimated project? That seems very...
That's just what's left, so the electrical and HVAC. Okay. So they've been working on, so a lot of the stuff that has already been in there, I didn't put a dollar to each little step, but no, that's like really the remaining cost.
I gotcha, because that seemed very low for a new setup.
No, yeah, money has been spent definitely over the last 4 years. But then we have actually one of our maintenance guys specifically, he has been doing a ton of the work there in-house. So it would be really hard to capture how much the cost is. But he's a really talented carpenter, so he's been doing a lot of the framing and building of their spaces. Like when I say offices, they're not really building offices, he's building them little cubes, and so there's supply costs, but then it's just his salary. But no, that's just the remaining, because those two things we'll need to get the building permit, and those will be outside vendors that will finish up the big project.
Thank you.
Sure. That's all I have.
Dr. Massey, anything else?
So to speak to staffing, again, we are looking really good. Our principals have been hiring folks left and right. We updated the personnel report. I think, Lori, we posted 3 o'clock. We did another upload because we got a couple of recommendations in today. So our principals have, to my knowledge at this point, filled all of the teaching positions we have open. We did just have a resignation today, and again, some of these things kind of come and go throughout the summer. So we posted one of our student services coordinator positions for the campus. That person helps with 504s and IEPs at both of those buildings and works with Dr. Staub pretty closely. So that's a new posting out there. We have a handful of athletic postings out there, some of our support personnel, some leaves, but all in all right now with where we're at in the summer, we're feeling pretty solid about the vacancies that we have open, and the principals have really been churning on filling those vacancies. So we're excited about that. And questions, Mr. Cronin? Yes, we still need bus drivers, Mr. Cronin. Are you volunteering, sir? 7 drivers, so we're still looking for 7. I know Mrs. Haas had a fair, a job fair, and I think 11, Mary, is that correct? We had 11 folks that showed up. 1 has already filled out the paperwork, studied over the weekend, came in and met with Ms. Haas today, and she's going to continue to borderline harass the other 10 to see if we can't encourage them to join our wonderful organization here and become drivers for us. So it was by far, according to Mrs. Haas's assessment, one of the most successful endeavors she's had as far as recruiting is concerned. So she did a very nice job. She and her staff put some time and effort into organizing that, and we were pleased with the outcome. So
I'd say like this time of the year is really tough to hire like paraprofessionals and your traditional hourly employees because they won't start work for 2 months. Bus drivers, it's perfect because it does take them a month or more to get the CDL training and everything. So if we can get them in now, get the training done this summer, it's ideal.
Yeah.
I was also going to say I was pleased to see the occupational therapists came up as hires, because I know that was a personal concern of mine just historically with some of those specific trades that we've had a hard time getting people. So good job, whoever.
The more interesting piece was not getting them hired. It was, okay, where are we going to house them? And then the principals almost had like wrestling matches. Like they were, I want them. Everybody wants those positions housed in their building. Yeah. So Jones won behavioral. I can't remember where the OTs are going to be.
The occupational therapist, we have one that will be at Aux Sable, one that will be here at the primary center, and then one that will be at, I believe, Jones as well, just because they had more space. But they're going to be servicing students in all of the buildings. That's just where their office will be housed.
we were pleased also that it was looking bleak there for a minute, and then we got a couple of really good applicants that came in around the same time, and Dr. Staub was able to fill 2 of those positions a couple days in a row. So that was nice.
I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
I know we just were reminded 80% the budget is salaries and benefits, and this all flows through you and your office and Dr. Staub and Dr. Mon. That I remember where we were before your position. It's a lot of work, and so thank you.
Well, we have a great team, so I appreciate that, but I definitely couldn't do what I do without the support of Dr. Mon, Dr. Staub, and Money Mary over here. So she keeps me honest. One last thing I just wanted to one last thing I wanted to bring to you guys is, as you know, our transportation department, the drivers and the aides have declared they want to be a union, right? So we're in the early phases of that. Had an opportunity to meet today with the UniServe director, and timeline-wise, just so you know, we're going to kick something off in July. So she's got some vacation, we have some vacations, but we're looking maybe at the end of July to get together, and she's the same person that's working with the high school transportation, so she's going to bring in some of that. 2 separate districts, you guys know it's weird over there, we're the same but we're different, so she's learning that as well through her negotiations with the high school, but is looking forward to starting the process with us late July, early August. So I just wanted to bring you that little update. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Dr. Staub?
All right, I just wanted to give a quick summer update on our summer programs. So we had Camp Math that we kicked off the summer programs at the beginning of this month, and then enrichment was last week. Those both went amazing, great student turnout each day. Camp reading started this morning. Super excited to see all the students roll through the doors. They were excited. They knew where to go already because they had already been there, a lot of them, for the camp reading or the Camp Math earlier in the month. And then we have extended school year continuing at Minooka Primary Center and Minooka Elementary School. That will go all the way through the 27th of this month. And then our summer bridge program, we are still taking enrollment on that. So if parents want to register, we would still encourage that all the way through June 21st. And then we'll start working out our rosters and getting information out to teachers and students. So the summer programs are going very well. We have very high enrollment for the bridge program, so I'm excited to see that as well. And then we had a great turnout for our summer sports physical clinic that Ms. Pelnarsh and Morris Hospital put on together, and that is always very well attended, and we had great attendance again this month for that. So just some great summer things. Even though like the students are technically not in the buildings, we still have some wonderful things going on within the buildings. So that's it, unless anybody had questions for me. Thanks.
Mr. Shackley, anything for technology? Sorry to put you on the spot. Thank you for being here and giving up your time to record us tonight. So, and then I want to acknowledge that our incoming superintendent, Mrs. Rachel Kinder, is here. Anything you wanted to say or share with the board? Didn't mean to put you on the spot. I should have warned you I was going to do that.
I get to learn how to use the microphone. You get to put everybody on the spot. It's your last meeting, right? No, it's been a great past month for me, getting to visit and meet with leaders, attend end-of-year meetings, professional learning communities, start to get into the schools and start to have some great visits and getting to know everybody and take everything in. So it's been a great time and transition with the team. It's been great, and then we will continue the charge in the next couple weeks, be ready to take off running come July. So it's been a great time.
Okay, my last report, it wouldn't be a Dr. Mon report if I didn't talk about Springfield for just a moment. So the legislature did adjourn on time. They did have $350 million for evidence-based funding. Well, it's $300 million for evidence-based funding and $50 million for property tax credits, but it's the same that they've been doing for a while. So Mary's budget is really on stable ground to be able to plan on that increase. A couple other bills that did get approved. Senator Kappel's Senate Bill 3606 has been a special education initiative that we have been trying to get passed for decades. And it finally went through this year, and it allows schools to be reimbursed at the same rate for your really high need students as if you sent them out to a private facility. Like, we've always struggled because we felt like they almost create a financial incentive to send kids out of the district, and if that's not the right placement for kids, that should have no bearing on it. And it finally got passed this year, so that was a really momentous occasion for those of us that have been watching special ed financing for a while. The other was a bill that came in late, and I never even got to update the board on this because it happened in like the last week and a half of the session. House Bill 4582 was really a huge school finance bill that got some things that districts have been longing for across a finish line. So some of the things that it did was it changed the limit on how long you can issue school bonds from 20 to 30 years, which is much more in line with how long you use a facility. You could argue that it could be 50 years and it still would be meaningful. It removed the requirement to go for referendum if you're going to build a new school for kindergarten or pre-kindergarten, which, you know, our pre-kindergarten gets pretty much maxed out every single year. So that's really good for a district like ours, that there's need for more pre-K classrooms, and now it might not take a referendum to be able, if we have the resources to build that building. It also, there was, for tax cap, it did some stuff on health and life safety as well, but also you'd have to go back into our finances back to the 9 years ago, but it takes out voter-approved bonds from a school district's debt limit. Those of us that have been watching for a long time, you know, when I started in 2015, we were over our debt capacity, but we had special legislation that allowed us to do that. Now, anytime a voter approves a bond, it won't count against the district's debt capacity. So a couple of really big things happen there that are really good for schools that I've, you know, talking to our team about it today or whatever. So hopefully Minooka 201 can benefit from that going forward. And aside from that, it's been a wonderful ride. Thanks to the trusting board.
Real quick. So on the building.
I was in my conclusion. What are we doing here?
I know. Well, I was waiting. So so explain the building part again. So without the referendum,
We
how
can
does
build
that?
for kindergarten or pre-K.
Now I don't get to say goodbye anymore. So school law has traditionally been like anytime you build a new building for students, it requires a referendum. That is no longer the case. If you are going to build, because they passed legislation to require full-day kindergarten by 2028, I think it is, and we already have full-day kindergarten, so it wasn't going to impact us. But a lot of districts don't have space to double their number of kindergarten classrooms, and they've been panicking about, do we have to do a referendum? Do we have to expand? So this was passed mostly to account for the governor's pre-K and the state's pre-K expansion initiatives that they have, as well as preparing districts to be able to have the capacity for full-day kindergarten. But a district like ours, we could really benefit from additional pre-K classrooms. And so it gives you the opportunity and flexibility in the future that with the different properties that we have, you could consider expanding preschool.
So my question is, then how is it paid for? Is it paid?
It would have to be paid from operating or...
So it's not private money that has to come in, it's something that comes in?
No, you'd have to use your own resources to do it.
All right. I'll let it go for now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You should bring this up in depth in July. Long, meaningful conversations at the July board meeting. All right, I'm going to get back to where I was going with that. Okay, yeah. No, to the boards, thank you for your trust and support. To our team, amazing people. The staff, the families, this is an awesome community, and it's been an honor. So thank you. We have no closed session.
Any other topics, questions, or concerns tonight? About the buildings. All right, next month. July. With that, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
I third.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.